Essentially, it's the use case that I've already explained. It's as a platform for experimentation, particularly in regards to how we can push the envelope of the boundary between society and social interactions and autonomous crypto-economic systems.
At this point in time, I think the biggest use case for Kusama is really around the funding, where I wouldn't have predicted it, and it might change in the next while, but definitely for at least the short to the medium term. Because if I look at what we've done in the ecosystem, we've addressed all those things in different ways via the Web3 Foundation, via things like Gitcoin, via different, people have done ICOs and different types of things. So we're really changing the way we can actually do funding on the blockchain.
So I don't distinguish Kusama and Polkadot as being or Kusama being different from Polkadot from experimenting with governance. But I do see that Kusama is definitely one that will experiment more with building communities and building societies on the blockchain. And so this is for me the most interesting thing that Kusama can bring to the world, kind of testing this, all the different ways that we could build DAOs or build communities on the blockchain.
Generally, it's experimenting and trying things that weren't otherwise possible. But I want to continue to see, like some of the things I mentioned earlier, more experimentation on the social side and the technology side around things that are a little bit edgy and wouldn't otherwise get funded. It could be anything like that, kind of push the boundaries of what's acceptable and what's possible.
I think the killer use case for Kusama Network will be anything that has to do with identity experimentation and anything that has to do with art.
In my opinion, I want to incentivize people who are artists and creators to start using Kusama to sustain themselves or create new models for sustaining themselves and creating sustainable work.
Art and creativity, obviously. There's also the way of that people create digital art, sell it, yeah. In the next 2 years, there's probably still a lot of key infrastructure that needs to be implemented and integrated, but also there, hopefully more people will socially adopt the system and become part of it and contribute to it. And we reduce the centralization of it.
I would say that in 2 years, I could see a network that has a very strong mission, focused on experimentation, that is a way for people to test the technology that they build, making sure that it's useful. And it's a system that allows us to align and collaborate.
I would define the next 2 years as basically two things: scalability and usability. Scalability will come from a lot of factors, but the main one being this relay chain stuff. So this relay chain, cross-chain message passing, all this kind of stuff will really define taking Polkadot and Kusama from being a blockchain to being a blockchain network, to being this next generation kind of Web 3.0 thing. And then we talk about usability. End of the day, all of these technologies can be as amazing and as perfect as you want, but if no one knows how to use them, then they bring no value to the world. And so we need to build the right layers. And I'm talking about multiple layers, not just front ends. I'm talking about, between the blockchain and a user pressing a button, there's multiple layers in between. And we need to design all these pieces so that everyone at all different stacks can actually use the blockchain to its full capabilities as it's supposed to be used. And this is something that I think that we've really taken for granted in the blockchain space as a whole. And it's really hard to design these systems because the underlying blockchain systems themselves are changing so often. I think I would be interested to see what other, like, what's the first wave of parachains will look like. Like, again, we have Kusama and Polkadot as being the center, this relay chain, but it's not quite clear yet what set of parachains will be built on these relay chains. And you can imagine, just like the communities we've been talking about as people communities in Kusama, that the set of relay chains that Kusama has, the set of relay chains that Polkadot has, will very much define the ecosystem or the community that's being built around this thing, right?
And so I'm sort of trying to work on things like privacy and interoperability. I want a chain that can talk to the language of lots of other chains, but everything on it would be private.
It can be possible that some people begin only building for Kusama. We are even seeing that today. At some point, could be possible that even the core software that runs Kusama at the core software that runs Polkadot could even divert, could even be different even.
It would be great to see ways in which the treasury can hold other assets, ways in which the treasury can invest by democratically approved referendum, parts of its treasury into projects that can later give profit. But it's very, very early to think in those terms if we are still fighting for the legal system of nation states to recognize the legality and the autonomy of systems like blockchains.